Alright, so this week what I'm going to show you is how to make a small bulldog sculpture. So the whole idea behind this is that I went to Ferris State University and we have a giant one of these on our campus, and I decided to take this old one that I used to have and try to make one that was cleaned and welded with silicon brown. So you can see that this one's missing the tail. I didn't have all the materials I needed on hand to finish this, but it actually came out pretty good. So let's see how we got there. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so for this project I wanted to show that you can do this with the bare minimum tools. So the way I'm going to be doing this is that I've drawn all these pieces up roughly the sizes they need to be. I'm then cutting them out as close to the edges as I possibly can with this chop saw that slides back and forth. And after I do that, I'm bringing them over here to my bandsaw, and I'm actually using a little bit of bluing and then using a scribe to make the line exact, and I'm cutting them super close to that line with my bandsaw, and then I'm going to take them to the belt sander and clean them up after that. So with all that being said, I do have access to a plasma cutter if I need to, and I could have easily done this project with that, but I wanted to show you guys that you can make this project with not having very expensive or very many tools. And if I really wanted to, I could actually just take a grinder with a cutoff wheel and just score down these lines perfectly and cut them off that way. But I don't have any cutoff discs right now, and this is the next best way I could think of doing it without using a plasma cutter to cut all these shapes out. So let's see how this turns out. Alright, so we got the main supports for the body done, and you can see I just put 3 tacks on each piece, outside edges, and then the middle, just to give it some rigidity. And the reason I wanted to do this part first is because this is a pretty complex dimension. I wasn't sure I could cut it accurately without getting this tacked together first. But now what I'm going to do is take this as a template, lay it down on a flat piece of steel, and then I can trace the inside of this to make pieces that will fit pretty dang closely to each side, because they're not going to be exactly the same. They're not going to be perfect, but they'll work for what I'm trying to do here. And then I have my pieces for the head here, so this will be the back of the head that comes up to here, the 2 sides of the head that stick out, and then this will be the top of the head that I'll have to heat and roll this front edge down once I get to that point. But coming along pretty good so far. We'll just have to wait and see how these edges turn out. Alright, so this is the main part of the head, and I just wanted to real quickly see what that silicon bronze would look like if I cleaned the steel real quick and then just kind of Scotch-Brighted the silicon bronze. And actually, I personally think it pops pretty well. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm not the best TIG welder out there, but I'm actually pretty pleased with how this came out, especially with this being the First time I've ever really TIG welded with silicon bronze filler metal. So I think I'm going to move forward with go ahead and cleaning all these parts first, adding the silicon bronze, and I think it'll make this Bulldog 3D statue pop pretty good. So we'll just keep moving forward with this. All right, so you can see it's really starting to come together now. We got the rear legs tacked on, the front legs tacked up and put on, and now we're just gonna weld the rest of this out before we finish with the head. So let's see how that goes. Alright, so this project was actually a lot of fun. You can see that this one's missing a few things compared to the other one, so I don't have the tail. I just didn't have a big enough piece of solid stock that would make it look like it was supposed to fit. But overall, this was the first time I've ever tried welding with silicon bronze, TIG welding with it, and honestly, it came out pretty good. I don't know if you can see here, but a lot of the beads came out all right. Some not so much. The ones that were fitted up in an outside corner came out really well. The ones that weren't like that, not quite as well, especially things like these large fillet welds. It was a little tough to keep the toes of the weld consistent all the way across. And if you've never welded with silicon bronze before, specifically TIG welding, it's a little weird. It's similar to welding with aluminum, but to me, I feel like aluminum, when you add filler metal, grows from the middle out, so it gets taller and thicker before it starts to wet out wider, where this is the opposite, where if you don't have a joint to cradle it like those outside corners, it actually gets very thick on the toes of the weld and wets out more before it builds up in the middle. So, a little different. And the main thing that was hard to get used to was that just the puddle itself, you can't see the solidification lines in it like you do with aluminum or steel. So it was definitely a kind of get a feeling for the feed rate and the travel speed you should go, but after a little while it came out pretty good. So if you guys are thinking of doing a project like this, I would highly recommend it, just because this is a ton of TIG welding that has to be done to complete this. And it's not only going to be good for practice, but if you get something that looks pretty decent, it's worth leaving it there, because honestly, I think it looks a little bit better leaving the ripple patterns and even some imperfections. Like you can see there, I didn't wrap that corner very well, but overall super happy with this. And now I got a silver and silicon bronze one to go with my steel one. So if you guys are looking for some prints, let me know. I can help you out with those. Otherwise, hope to see you in the next video.